It may shock you, but some are more likely than others. Hi, my name is Matthew, and you might know me as BeLikeBoy on TikTok, it's BeLikeBoy on Twitter, BeLikeBoy on Blue Sky, BeLike_Matt_ on Instagram, or you might not know me at all. And for those of you who don't, I am a content creator that talks all things World of Wonder and Drag Race, especially that of Drag Race outside of the US. And today, for my 21st video ever, I want to continue my streak of speculative casting. And if you saw the title of this video, you know exactly what I am talking about. Which international queen will be cast on US American All-Stars? But before we dive into the question, I want to give a huge shout out to the members of the BeLikeBoy YouTube membership program. As always, thank you very much for directly supporting the channel, and if you're not a member, feel free to check out the program and the benefits you get if you join, including member shoutouts like you're seeing on the screen here, exclusive polls, and exclusive YouTube shorts. And of course, 24-hour early access to all future videos if you join the Born to Do Drag tier. Hope to see you there. Also tonight I am drinking the sparkling watermelon Celsius. Ooh, not sponsored, but Celsius. I drink your drinks all the time. You want to sponsor me so bad. Okay, so International Queens on American All-Stars. On April 20th, 2023, the cast of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 8 was revealed across World of Wonder's YouTube channel, Instagram, and other social media platforms. Among the cast were big names within the community of Drag Race, such as Heidi N Closet, Jessica Wilde, Candy Muse, and Jimbo? What are you doing here? Jimbo was a contestant that competed on the very first season of Canada's Drag Race, where she finished with 4th place, getting eliminated at the ball. She later returned to the very first iteration of UK vs. the World, where, after winning the first 2 episodes back-to-back, got eliminated in the 3rd by the season's biggest threat, Pangina Heels. Jimbo was a potential winner of that season to many fans, but perhaps to Ru most of all. Ru very clearly liked Jimbo, appreciating her ability to banter, her kooky disposition, and her overall wacky approach to drag. Which is saying a lot, because this is a season full of some of RuPaul's favorite queens, such as Jujubee, Bag of Chips, and Mo Hart, all of whom competed under RuPaul's eye before. So for Jimbo to make this big of an impact on RuPaul when this was only her first time meeting the queen of drag spoke volumes. So it was no wonder that UK vs. the World wouldn't be the last time that we saw Jimbo. And 1 year later, she was revealed to be on the cast of All-Stars 8. And this casting was a milestone, as it marked Jimbo to be the first international queen that did not originate from a RuPaul season to come back for an American All-Stars. I hope I made that distinction clear, because if we're being technical, the Vivienne, RIP, was technically the first international girl to come back and compete on a US All-Stars when she came back for All-Stars 7, i.e. all winners. But basically, when I say international girls throughout this video, please note that I am talking about queens who originated from non-RuPaul hosted seasons. So like Philippines, Canada, obviously, Sweden, you know, like France, you know the drill, but I digress. Anyways, Jimbo's casting on All-Stars 8 sort of legitimized UK vs. the World and the other RuPaul-hosted international All-Stars such as Global All-Stars, because it confirmed, essentially, that queens who compete on those seasons become sort of honorary Ru girls, and therefore are eligible to compete on US All-Stars. And, so far, being a Ru girl seems to be the primary qualification to compete on it. And in recent years, it's become more and more apparent that American All-Stars is the end-all be-all. That's the dream destination, especially for international girls. However, with the recent announcement and subsequent premiere of All-Stars 10, a cast compiled of 18 whole queens, we have now gone 2 seasons of All-Stars since season 8 with nary an international queen there. Now, admittedly, I do not know the standards, processes, or procedures to secure a visa in the United States for queens of certain countries, and I can only imagine that it will get even harder going forward considering the current political climate of the United States, where we have a xenophobic nationalist administration in power that is particularly adverse to foreign identities and is overextending its power to ensure that fewer and fewer people that were born outside of these borders can come here. Sorry, I just had to get that out of me. Do what you can. Go to protests, make your voices be heard, vote in federal, vote in state, vote in local, vote in primary elections. make your voices be heard. It's going to take all of us. Okay, all of that to say is that I recognize there are reasons that it might be difficult for international girls that competed on UK versus the World and Global All-Stars to get a visa and come here and compete in an American All-Stars. But I thought it would be fun if we ponder on a theoretical world where getting a visa in the United States is the easiest thing you can possibly do, and speculate which queens will get what I like to call the Jimbo treatment. I'm basing my picks on a couple of criteria. Primarily, which queens were fan favorites, and perhaps most importantly, which queens RuPaul responded well to. Because unfortunately, there are some queens that RuPaul likes more than others. That's not a good thing, that's not a bad thing, it's just a fact. In addition, I also ran a poll for the members of the Seasoned Entertainer and Born to Do Drag tiers on the Black Boy membership program, and the results of that poll helped to determine who should be on. Check out my channel to join and participate in future ones. As you can imagine, I am only pulling from the international queens that competed on UK versus the World and Global All-Stars. Sorry, Canada versus the World. And I have compiled a list of 4 queens that I think could/should get the Jimbo treatment on All-Stars 11, 12, etc., etc. The first and foremost is probably the first queen everyone thought of, Marina Summers from UK vs. the World Season 2. Marina Summers was a runner-up from the very first season of Drag Race Philippines, losing the crown to Precious Paula Nicole. She later returned to, as I mentioned, the second season of UK vs. the World, where she finished with 3rd/4th place after losing the first round of the lip sync for the crown against Down Under's Hanaconda. And though the season was adorned with fan favorites and queens who can credit the season as a major launchpad for their international careers, such as the winner Tia Coffee or the Miss Congeniality Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha, Marina Summers was undoubtedly the breakout star of the season. Admittedly, going into the show, Marina was one of the biggest names, especially by non-Ru Girl standards, clocking in at nearly 100,000 followers on Instagram before UK vs. the World 2. This is thanks, of course, to Drag Race Philippines being one of the biggest non-English franchises there is, both within the franchise's country of origin and abroad. But even still, her mark on UK vs. the World 2 turned her into a global phenomenon, for more reasons than one. One of the primary being that Marina earned herself a title that perhaps in some cases is more enviable than the crown itself. She was a robbed queen. Though all 4 queens in the top 4 of UK vs. the World 2 did incredible throughout the entire season and each had their own claim to the crown, Marina Summers' loss definitely stung the fandom the most, as she was undoubtedly the fan favorite going into the finale, and whose win would have harkened a break in the quote English franchise win streak experienced in all versus the World seasons up until that point, and still to this point today. Also, please don't use me saying this as an opportunity to send hate to Tia Coffee. She's an absolutely lovely person and a deserving winner. Okay, thank you. Being the robbed queen, however, skyrocketed her career, and she used that opportunity as a launchpad to perform all over the world. Places such as New York, Vancouver, Paris, and more. Not to mention being a headliner for Work the World, which takes her and a troupe of other Drag Race icons such as Sasha Velour and Vanessa Vanjie Mateo to countless venues across the globe. Point being, there was a demand to see her. And now, almost a year and a half after the airing of UK vs. the World 2, that demand has not lessened at all. This demand, as well as Marina's competitive prowess, makes her not just a perfect candidate to return to American All-Stars, but makes her the very first non-Ru girl that I would bet money on the fact that she would return on an American All-Stars. And when the other girls see her walking into that workroom, they better start quaking in their boots, because Marina will unequivocally give them all a run for their money. Exactly as she did to all the queens of UK vs. the World 2. Now, moving on from UK vs. the World 2, I'd like to select a queen from one of the most heinous, one of the most cursed, one of the most gruesome seasons of Drag Race ever. Global All-Stars. I don't know why I said it like that. Of the 9 non-Ru girls to compete on this season, there is one queen that I, personally, think has the highest likelihood of making an appearance on an American All-Stars. Vanity Vane. Vanity Vane was a finalist on the first and heretofore only season of Drag Race Sverige, where she finished with 3rd place. She returned to the first and heretofore only season of Global All-Stars, where she finished with 6th place after being eliminated by UK's Kitty Scott-Claus during the season's Makeover Challenge. Vanity did, She definitely participated on Global All-Stars. No, I'm kidding. But Vanity's time on the season was something else. She started off the season with a bang, winning her respective premiere with an original song during the talent show and defeating the Philippines' Ava LaQueen in a lip-sync for the win. After her successful first outing, she then went on to be the sacrificial lamb of the season, being put in the bottom not once, not twice, not thrice, but quatrice in episodes 4, 7, 8, and 9. She was undoubtedly the lip-sync assassin of the season, turning out some of the best performances that Global had seen. Though this was a highlight, I think Vanity's real claim to the All-Stars ticket was just how much RuPaul loved the bitch.
Listen, asymmetrical always works. Yeah. It always works, especially, you know, for a more handsome man. Yeah. What is she talking about? All right, is there anything else you want to add?
No.
One of RuPaul's favorite things to do is banter and volley with a queen. She loves when she sets up a queen for a joke and that queen is able to meet her at her level. Vanity did that, and dare I say she did that better than anybody else on Global All-Stars. She may not have been able to apply it to challenges that required a sort of blow-for-blow repartee such as Snatch Game, but when Vanity was on the runway, it was a riot, and Ru adored her for it. This is exactly, in my opinion, what got Jimbo cast on All-Stars 8. Jimbo may not have been the best at some of the challenges, but RuPaul fell in love with her because of her unabashed charisma on the runway.
Silence!
And Vanity captured that exact charisma in a way that I think would motivate RuPaul to extend her an invitation to American All-Stars. Not to mention Vanity being able to maintain that energy on a season where she, a non-native English speaker, outpaced the other girls in terms of banter. Oh, RuPaul just ate it up, and so did we. Get her on All-Stars 11 now. The third queen I've chosen also comes from UK vs. the World Season 2, from Drag Race France, La Grande Dame. La Grande Dame was a contestant and runner-up on the first season of the French franchise and later returned to finish with 3rd/4th place on the British franchise. Her time on UK vs. the World 2 was a legendary run, immediately grabbing attention by winning the first 2 episodes back-to-back, even winning the second episode's lip-sync against Holland's Keta Minaj. Although that same episode she eliminated my love and heart Arantxa Castilla-La Mancha in cold blood. I haven't forgotten. Though La Grande Dame's time on UK vs. the World 2 might have teetered out a little bit by the end, I am putting her on this list for the similar reasons that I put Vanity Vane. RuPaul just had a damn good time with her. Go back and rewatch UK vs. the World 2 and you can pinpoint at least 5 times an episode where RuPaul was absolutely living for this French diva. And similar to Jimbo, the infatuation seemed to begin right at the start, with an eclectic and unique talent show that poked fun at the entirety of the show and was irreverent in nature. She took this into every aspect of the season, by the way. Her runways were the perfect intersection of couture and contemption. Her challenge performances were the perfect intersection of earnestness and aloofness. And she did it gracefully enough that RuPaul absolutely fell in love with her. I think Ru was sad to eliminate her in the finale, and I don't think she'll forget her name anytime soon. And though La Grande Dame has put her drag on leave intermittently as she pursues and explores other creative outlets, I wouldn't be surprised at all if she dusts off that wig and that Kevin Germanier promo look if RuPaul calls her up for American All-Stars. So for the fourth queen on this list, we must return, unfortunately, to Global All-Stars, where you, not I, you have selected, similar to Jimbo, another Canadian representative, Pythia. Pythia was a contestant on the second season of Canada's Drag Race, where she finished as a runner-up to Isis Couture. She later returned to the first iteration of Global All-Stars before getting eliminated at top 7 during the roast. Now, Pythia was one of 3 options on a poll that I posted on my YouTube community tab on May 21st. The other 2 being Janie Jacquet and Marina Summers. And I ran this poll for you all so that you all might get more of an opportunity to sort of interact with my videos. And so I did it to determine which queen would get an additional mention on my list. All 3 of these queens were determined by a series of preliminary polls I ran with the members of the Be Like Boy membership program. I then brought the 3 quote-unquote finalists to my public channel, and over 2,000 people voted, and Pythia won the poll. Kinda. If I'm being frank with you all, Marina Summers won the poll. By like a lot. But Marina was already a personal pick that I made for this video, so we're going with the runner-up of the poll, Pythia. Now, Pythia may not have definitively won the poll that I ran, but that does not mean her place on American All-Stars would be a waste, as Pythia was an underrated threat that would undoubtedly give her American competitors a run for their money. There are the obvious skills, of course, such as Pythia being one of the best designers in the RuPaul cinematic universe, which she demonstrated speedily on Global All-Stars, gaining an early lead after winning the ball on episode 3. But Pythia also possesses a set of soft skills in comedy that a lot of other queens might not expect, especially considering that Pythia is technically an alternative queen, a group which tends to be pigeonholed into a stereotype of style over substance. Not true at all, by the way. Now yes, I know what you're probably thinking. Pythia might have been eliminated for the roast on Global and low for the roast on Canada too, but comedy is not a monolith, meaning that there are many forms of it. So Pythia may have struggled in written comedy, but she excelled in off-the-cuff improv comedy, as displayed in her top placements for Snatch Game on both Canada 2 and Global All-Stars, which, as I mentioned, is RuPaul's favorite form of comedy. My point in saying all this is that Pythia has more than what it takes to hold her own in an American All-Stars, which is why I think a healthy population of people gravitated towards voting for her in my poll, and many fans, including RuPaul, would be ecstatic to have her back. And the fifth and final queen that I chose might be a little bit more of a surprise choice because to some people, she might not even be eligible for American All-Stars at all. But it's my video, and I can do what I want. The next queen is Lemon. Lemon was a contestant on season 1 of Canada's Drag Race where she finished 5th. She later returned to the very first season of UK vs. the World where she was unfortunately the pork chop. All was not lost though, as 2 years later she came back for the second edition of Canada vs. the World where she won. Okay, I know. Listen. I'm aware of the fact that across 3 seasons of competing, Lemon has only interacted with RuPaul a grand total of 1 episode. But walk with me here. Imagine Lemon coming back for All Winners. Hear me out, hear me out. All Winners is an interesting spin-off because even though we've only had 1 iteration, people have a list of assumed rules and expectations about what it entails. The most popular and widely accepted of which is that in order to compete, you must have been crowned by RuPaul. Meaning, if you are crowned by RuPaul's decree, not crowned by Mama Pow's, not Fuchs Deluxe's, not Brooks, but by RuPaul's decree, you can compete on All Winners. Which makes sense, because if All Winners is supposed to be the competition of the best, and if RuPaul is going to host it, it would only be fair if all the girls were on an even playing field. One of the best ways to do that is to ensure that RuPaul is familiar with all the girls competing, rather than her balancing having to learn the queens she doesn't know as well as remembering the ones she's seen before. That's one way to avoid the pitfalls of Versus the World and Global All-Stars after all. But Drag Race has never respected the sanctity of casting before, because unlike what many fans suspect, there are no rules to sanctify to begin with. They do whatever they want, which is how we got queens like BB on All-Stars 3, Ginger on All-Stars 10, etc, etc. And I think the show would be willing to expand the invitation of All Winners. And Lemon is technically an honorary Ru girl, even if for only a single episode, so there at least would be a little bit of justification for her being in the lineup of winners. It at least would be a blindside to the other queens competing, which would be a fierce way to even the odds after a perceived disadvantage. And of course her talent would back up her casting. I mean, who's gonna go toe-to-toe in a girl group challenge with Lemon besides like Shea Coulee, who already competed on All Winners 1. Who could do it? Tell me. Nymphia, if she stuffed Megami in her suitcase? I don't think. Kidding. This would be a 4-timer that I would kill to have back. And that's it. Those are 5 international Drag Race queens from UK vs. the World and Global All-Stars that I think are surefire shots to come back for an American All-Stars. Now, I only picked 5 queens, but let's be real here. I will be happy with any international queen coming back in this capacity. Honorable mentions I wanted to bring up are Miranda LeBrow, Tessa Testicle, Pangina Heels, Jana Jacquet, and perhaps the most important to me, Soa Demuse, who is one of my favorite queens ever. But I decided to leave her off this list because she may or may not be on a different kind of All-Stars this summer. Shh. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching. And a special thank you again to the Be Like Boy YouTube membership program members for directly supporting my content. If you're not a member, check out my channel and see the perks you get if you consider joining. If not, no worries. You can always support by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me if you do. And please remember, as always, I am just a silly little gay person talking on the internet.